Namaste, welcome back to the channel. You might have heard something called as registration for the medical professional. A medical practitioner has to compulsorily register for certain benefits. There are two kinds of registration. One is called a state registration, another one is called a central registration. Now, what exactly is the central registration and what is the status of the central registration in India, especially from Ayurveda point of view? So the first and foremost thing is, what is this registration? After completing the undergraduation or post-graduation or higher studies, a medical graduate can get himself or herself registered. So this is different from the degree. You or like the person who is doing the medical study may be getting a degree from a particular university, but probably he or she is from different state or from different UT. So they may have to go to their home place for further future. Now, just getting the degree will not make them to allow, like they are not allowed to practice just with the degree. So now what should be done? They are legally supposed to be registered in the respective, you can say, state or the board maintained registry, which gives them a separate number. After registration, the medical graduate will be given a separate identification number, which makes sure that the person is actually a medical professional. He or she is not a quack. Quack means who may not have a degree and simply practicing. There are high possibilities because there are many universities in India which may give some false kind of documents. So there are very few people in India because among 130 crore people, there are multiple, you can say, quacks in India who are practicing even now. But since the investigation or inspection by the respective councils are not done properly, still they are practicing. Otherwise, they are very harmful to the society. So they are called as quacks. So just to maintain, or you can say keep the quacks away from the society, only the actual medical graduates should practice the field of medicine. This kind of registration system has been done. Now, what is it is, I think you might have understood. There are two kinds of registers. One is called a state register and another one is called a central register. State register, I think you understood. I may be a graduate from RGUHS Bangalore, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences Bangalore. And imagine I am from a different state, like I am right now working in Rajasthan. Now, is it possible for me to have my Karnataka registration, state registration and practice here? No, the rule says the place where you are practicing, you should be registered in the respective board. So in Rajasthan, the board is Board of Indian Medicine, which is in Jaipur. Now, what happens is, if you want to practice in another state, you have to go there, submit all the documents as per the prescribed form. And if there is a verification that is required from the other university, other state university, the respective registration board will do that. And then they will issue a particular identification number. So what happens is, this board in Rajasthan is making sure that I have actually graduated from RGHS and my degree certificates and all those marks cards are not fake. So ultimately, I am an eligible actual medical practitioner who is now allowed to practice in Rajasthan because of my registration in Rajasthan. Now, there is another question. Is it possible for me to have my state registration in one place and work in some other state without changing the registration? Some people say that it is possible. So why I am saying some people? Because till now the answer is not clear. Some people say it is possible based on central registration. There is a concept called as central registration. So what this central registration means, apart from each state board, so each state will have a different board, as I already mentioned. It maintains the register of the physicians. That is why even the practitioner has to compulsorily put his registration number in his clinic. Anybody can check it anytime, if it is really or not, if he is a real physician or not. Now, this central registration was actually planned or is having the concept of keep your registration in one state. For example, imagine myself having the registration in Karnataka under Kapu board. And then imagine I want to practice in Jaipur, some private hospital. But I am not sure I will stay here for longer time. So I don't want to change the registration. because changing of registration is an hectic process and it is very cost consuming. You are going to spend too much of money. So when you are not sure, can you do it? So some people say central registration is the solution for that. Central registration helps the person to practice in other state without actually getting registered in that particular state. Now we'll come to this point later. This is the concept what people believe. I'm not telling it's 100% right. This is the point what people believe. Just keep that in mind. Now, why is it required? I already mentioned, to just keep the quacks away from the society. Next, who issues the central registration? Of course, state one, I think you might have understood now. Each board is having different set of people who are working on that. Now, central registration, who is going to issue that? Is it a central minister? Is it the PM? Or is it central government, some personality? No. There is a body which governs the education. So this board actually should give the central registration as per the previous work pattern. Earlier, what used to happen, CCIM had its own website. There itself the central registration option was there. After you click the central registration, CCIM what used to do, they used to ask for 2000 rupees and then take certain documents online, and then it was said that you will get the central registration number soon. This was the promise what was made, but many people did not get the central registration even after 2 to 3 years. That's a tragedy, or that's a different situation now. Now, I think now you understood who issues the central registration. We'll come to the issues again later. So now, as per this rule, the NCSM has to give the central registration now, but still it is not yet started the process of giving central registration. Now, the controversy in relation to the central registration all over India, if you want to know, even I was shocked when I was searching for this information. There were certain news which even I didn't know because it was so old. If you see this news, it is around 2017 with no central registration. Future of Ayurveda students lie in limbo. So this is the news from Kolkata, where the students completed their undergraduation, post-graduation from different state, and they were called to work in Bengal, but they were not able to because they were not given central registration. People had applied for central registration, but they did not get the number. Now, because of this, the institutions or the private hospitals which could hire these students were not able to do that, or they were not allowing them to get hired because of no central registration. Otherwise, they were asking them to completely shift your registration to West Bengal. But students were not ready because they anytime could go back to their own state. So that was the issue. Now, if it was given, then probably they would have worked there for some time, then go back to their state government. But it was not done. So that is what this is the news of 2017. Now the same information is mentioned here in this entire news. You can read that later. So in this, one of the important information is more than 500 graduates were denied their permission for working in Bengal. Now, since 2015 and 16 itself, many people did not get the central registration. But the amount which was taken for central registration went on and on up to 2020, almost 2019 and 2020. So central registration amount was received by CCIM almost up to 2020, you can imagine, 2019 end. But none of them got the numbers, registration number. Later CCIM got dissolved. In between this time, many thousands of Ayurveda physicians applied for central registration, paying 2000 rupees. Now, you can multiply 2000 into number of candidates. You can get to know how much of amount has gone into the treasury. But with no response, and we don't know where that money has gone now. So that is one of the controversy. Anyway, 2000 rupees, Ayurveda physician doesn't mind too much because it is just one person's 2000. But on a whole scale, it is a very huge amount in crores. Now, the second issue is NCSM later issued a notice when it came into existence. It shows a notice that if you are having central registration, listen to this carefully. If you are having central registration, no need to have state registration if you are working in other state. There was one notice. Now I am not able to find that because I think it has they have understood some issues there. That's why they might have removed. There was one notice. NCISM was actually inspecting various colleges, and during that time many on-paper teachers were found. and then state registers were checked, like whoever is registered in that particular state was considered as a regular teacher, and others were termed as on paper, or they were seen with the eye of on paper, and they were investigated by multiple questions to prove that they are not on paper teacher. But later the same NCSM released a notice saying that central registration, if it is there, then you need not change this state registration. You can work in other state. So this is again one of the another controversy. Now the whole process of this controversy again further aggravated when NCSM again released a letter saying that the central registration number issued between two dates were considered as invalid. So few people might have got some numbers, central registration. NCSM declared 2 dates and told that whoever got the central registration numbers between these two dates are invalid. So it is again adding on to already existing controversy. So these are affecting only few people, because if you are working in your own state and if you are having state registration, I don't think you would have worried. But those who are working in the other state, in other institutes, maybe because of salary disparity, I think they were the ones who were affected by all these things. Now, after all these controversies, now on paper status, I think I have explained, you might have understood. We'll take one more session on this concept of on paper status, what NCSM has done to reduce the on paper teachers, but what are the major drawbacks of those plannings, and actually what is the status of its intervention, and other things we'll see in some other session. Now, in the future, recently again I had applied for an RTI, and the RTI response what I got for central registration is, I asked basically central registration is for what purpose? What can I do basically with central registration? If you search the same in Quora, this central registration issue is even there in other states, even in other streams. Like what the usual concept is, like central registration, if it is there, you can practice anywhere in India. So this is the usual notion, but actually it is wrong. Even in Quora, even in other branches like the mainstream medicines, there also students are not confused about the central registration, because the individual's practice in a particular state, is governed by the state rules, and maybe the state board may not accept the central registration. This is one issue. So the state board may not agree the central registration. So there is no clear-cut rule which says that central registration is for practicing anywhere in India. So keep this point away from your mind, that if you have central registration, you can settle anywhere in India for practicing. No. If you want to practice privately, then state registration would be ideal. If you ask my opinion, state registration would be ideal wherever you are practicing, because it is not yet clear whether central registration allows that or not. But maybe in the kind of institution like atmosphere, maybe it is possible. Maybe central registration may be accepted, because you are not doing privately. Maybe you are working under an organization where you may be there for few days or weeks or something like that. There may be possible. Otherwise, I don't think central registration is ideal for any private practice, that too in a particular state. Private practice, private clinic. So in the recent RTI what I applied, what I got the information is that the Ccim has been dissolved in 2020, and then the new council has come called as NCSM. So till now the process is going on. To maintain the national or central register, which means the central registration is not yet started in NCSM. Even the NCSM website, you cannot find any option of getting centrally registered. You cannot find. And they are telling it is still under process. Maybe in the coming few days or weeks, or you can say in the coming future, you will be getting the notification. That was the whole intention of the reply, what I got from them. Now, if that is the case, if it is in still process, then why did NCSM release a notice that the central registration would be sufficient to prove that you are not on paper teacher? Then why did it release that the central registration during 2 particular dates were considered to be invalid? So I am totally confused basically what NCSM wanted to tell, or what Ccim has done with all those money which they have got from the central registration. Nobody got the refund of that central registration. Whoever has registered, they did not get the number, and neither they got back their money. So this is one thing. One more thing is, with central registration, your state registration should always be there. It's not like directly you can register in central registration. No. Central registration is nothing but your state has already verified that you are a regular like Ayurveda scholar or medical student, and you have cleared it legally. Like you are basically qualified for practice. That is proven by your state registration, and that is seconded by the central registration. Central register will not again check you again. It will verify based on your state registration. So whenever you cancel your state registration, central registration also gets cancelled. So that is the point. So if you want to change your state registration, again your central registration gets cancelled. This was the earlier situation in case of CCIA. Whether it applies the same in the future in Ncism, so that also needs to be clarified. So 2 points. What is the exact utility of the central registration? Whether central registration really clears the on-paper teachers, or whether it is going to help the on-paper teachers. This is the second one. And third one is whether central registration is purely based on state registration. If it is purely based on state registration, then what is the purpose of me having again paid for another registration? So these are all the questions which needs to be answered by the councils in the coming days. Otherwise, there is no point of talking about the central registration and making a big news about it that we have done all these things. So this was the controversy. So until next time, thank you.